Okay, now I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to teach this largely in the same way that I would teach it to students, although as you are all adult learners and that you're going to be coaches, I'm also going to give you some tips as a coach. Okay, so what we're going to learn today, we're going to learn how to build beats and music by writing code. We're going to learn to code in Python. You do not need to know anything about coding. You do not need to know anything about music. All you need is a laptop and a stable internet connection. And that's true of all. Yes. Good morning. Yeah. So your camera's off. That's fine. And not sure if we got any other questions. Yeah. So feel free. You can, ask any questions in the chat. It's myself, my colleague Shiva, who is in a room called Dead Reckoning, and he's going to help me with Q&A in the chat. So what I want you all to do is go to earsketch.gatech.edu. earsketch.gatech.edu. I'm going to put that in the chat. Yeah, so for the PowerPoint, yes, we will provide it to you. This is actually, we are basically reworking our content and taking what is 10 hours today and compressing it to 5. So as we go along, we'll send you like sort of the chunks of each slide deck. But bear in mind, we're like updating this as we go, because today we have a longer training, but we're finding it's a lot better, like easier if we can get this into a smaller space. So hopefully you've gone to earsketch.gatech.edu. Before we get started, we're going to talk about something called a function. All right. And before that's, these are the concepts we're going to go through. Most of the time we're going to spend in EarSketch as teachers and trainers. The times when we're going to use slides are really specifically when we want to teach a concept. Okay. So the first concept we're going to learn today is functions. What are functions? Functions are reusable code. They receive an input and takes an action. Reusable code receives input, takes an action. And so in Python, you're going to have the syntax is going to look like this. And for some of you who don't have coding experience, this is going to look a little bit intimidating at first. The concepts are actually really simple once we unpack them. It just, at first go, if you're not familiar with coding and the syntax, it might look a little bit funny. But we teach this to students who are 10 years old who've never coded in their lives. So you'll get it. So, but a function in Python is going to look like this. It's going to have a function name of some sort. You're going to see parentheses. And then each of those bits of input, like the information, the data that you put into it, it's going to be the first input with a comma, second input, comma, third. And so basically, and it's like this reusable code receives input, takes an action. When we describe this to students, the way we describe it is really like looking at the general concept of function. You also hear the term algorithm. So algorithm, just go ahead and go into chat. Does anyone give me an idea, like when you think of functions, when you think of algorithms, how would you describe an algorithm? And just feel free to put it into chat. And so for you who've not used, for those of you that haven't used Google Meet before, on the right-hand side, you'll see a little button that looks like a chat icon. You can click on that, go ahead and add in chat. Yeah. Oh yeah, there is a typo. All right. Thank you. Thanks. Mess that up.
It's the typo's not in the slide deck. I think it
is user error on my side. Yeah, cool. Okay, so I added an extra T. Thank you for calling that out. EarSketch.gatech.edu. Yeah, so that's where we go. I put it into the chat. Yeah. So an algorithm. So an algorithm, simply think of an algorithm like a recipe or sort of a process, a set of instructions. A really good example is ordering a pizza. What happens? When I call up the pizza restaurant, and I'm old school, so I do a call, what happens? On a call, I can't just say, hey, large pizza with cheese. What are they going to say if I just say large pizza with cheese? The other end of the phone. They're going to say, A, let's start with your name. Back up, give me your phone number, because I don't know who you are. You're ordering pizza. You got to give me some more information. So these are the inputs it needs. It needs my name, phone number, size of pizza, toppings. And the algorithm is, as soon as that person takes that call and they write it down, they're like, good, it'll be here in 20 minutes. And after that, I have no idea what happens. I know it gets cooked. I know they're using ingredients. I know what a pizza is. I don't know the name of the chef. I don't know the type of oven they have, the temperature of the oven. I don't exactly know where the ingredients came from. All that's what we call abstracted away. I can't see that. I just rely on that thing to happen. And I don't need to do any of those things. I've just given them my input and they're going to take an action. And it's a repeatable thing, like ordering a pizza, something they do all the time. They're following a set of instructions. They know how to do it and they just do the thing and out comes my pizza. So you could think of this in Python if they're writing some code, instead of like me calling up and telling them to do the thing. In Python, Python's the type of programming language we're going to use. There are many types of programming languages. This is the one we're using because it's super popular, particularly in data science and machine learning. In Python and code, it would look probably something like this. You'd have like the name of the function, then parentheses, you'd have these different inputs, like Alicia Keys, phone number 5551212, large pizza, Hawaiian is the style, which, by the way, happens to be Alicia Keys' favorite pizza, we found out. And so that's what a function is. Let me just check in. Does that make sense conceptually? And feel free to add in chat, raise your hand. This is a great opportunity. If you ask questions, it's gonna help the students. It's gonna help the people here. If you are shy about asking questions, don't be, because your students can't be shy either. If you're asking a fundamental question that helps everyone, okay? And don't ever think of a question as being stupid. The only question that is, the question that's not asked, that's the question that you got to worry about, you know? So be bold if you have some questions. Just gonna check in. Thumbs up if we're getting this is hitting well. And if not, you know, go ahead and let us know in the chat as a concept. If not, I'm just going to move on. Okay. So so we're going to use this function in EarSketch, and this is where we're going to start coding. Okay. In EarSketch, we're going to play a sound. We're going to have this thing called a function that plays a sound. Okay. And what we mean by that, it's going to take the thing, instead of being called order pizza, is going to be called fit media. That's the name of the function. And it's going to take some input. And so what we're going to give it, it's kind of like, and we actually in programming in Python, we say we're calling a function, just like I call a pizza. That's the term we use. And so someone at this place called EarSketch, this programmer, they already created this function. So you don't need to know what happens in the background. Same like ordering pizza. You just need to give it input. You need to say, like, I want to play the sound. This is the track I want to play it on. Think of track like a train track or rows. It's like these things can play side by side. Like different sounds can play side by side at different start and end times. But I got to tell where to start and where to stop. And just so you know, fit media, it needs a capital M separated by commas. This is a good example of what we call syntax. You got to write things in a certain way. Otherwise, you're going to get an error. Same way when you write a paper in English class, you got to write it with certain syntax. Okay. Pausing there, you don't need to understand this yet. I'm just giving you the concepts. Now we're going to move. The rest of the time we're going to spend showing you how to code. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to share the EarSketch screen as if I'm a brand new user who hasn't used EarSketch before. Okay, so this is, I want you to go to EarSketch, and this is what you're going to see. You're going to EarSketch. Again, it's earsketch.gatech.edu. And you can go ahead and follow along the tour. I'm going to use that. And thanks, Nish, for the thumbs up. And please start using the chat on the right-hand side, like, you know, just like a DJ's on stage. I need to know how the crowd is going, but also need some questions. And so what you're going to see in the center, welcome to EarSketch. I did not build this, by the way. So I just found it with a great Google search. is it's a platform. It was created, it is supported by Georgia Tech School of Music Technology. If you've ever produced music or you've ever watched someone do that, maybe either in a movie or you got a friend who produces music, this is like music production software. It's called a DAW. It also has a code editor, and we're going to show you how those things work together. So you'll notice it just defaults to Python, and I hit start. And then you see down here, this is my code editor. This is where we're going to see code. You saw me with Fit Media. This is a good example of that. You don't need to understand this code yet. You just need to know that this code editor, that's where we're going to write our code. And when we hit the run button, what happens next is up here, hit that run button already. I did that. And up here, we see this next section, and this is what we call the DAW, the Digital Audio Workstation. So you take a producer like Pharrell, that top section, it looks something like they probably use something like Logic or Ableton, some sort of professional tool. What they use is they actually use the software to like drag and drop. They don't write any code. They're going to drag and drop. The big difference in the students today, they're going to become engineers because they're going to write some code. They're going to become artists because they're going to use that code to remix music tracks. So instead of dragging and dropping, we're going to write the code, and it's going to do those actions for us. It's called a script, right? It just follows the instructions and does the thing. And then we hit play. You can see this sound. You can see these different rows. Kind of starts to sound like some sort of 80s soundtrack, right? So you can see these two things, like 1, 2, those are the actual tracks. You can see this one starts at 1, ends at 5. You can see this one starts at 1, ends at 9. So they're playing on 2 different tracks, like train tracks, playing at the same time. You also notice over here, this second track, it kind of started fading in. One of the reasons we use tracks is so, when you produce music, so you can do different things to the different sounds. Like you'll have vocals on one side. In this case, we have our beats, then we have the synth, could have vocals, and you could play around with those sounds in different ways. So, well, what are the sounds, right? So you go to the left-hand side of this thing called EarSketch, and you'll see we have artists, Alicia Keys, and if you can help me let them in, Shiva. Alicia Keys, Dakota Barrett Gammon, Jay Lee, Khaled, Pharrell, all these artists have just donated their sounds. They're called stems. In other words, they're short bits of the song. They're actually like maybe one, we say measure or bar or 2 or 3 of each sound. So like I look at Pharrell and he's got his sound called Entrepreneur with Jay-Z. And you'll see he's got like the vocals down here. You've got their verses. We're going to play their drum beat, which sounds like this. So you can sample these sounds. Or I can play this, or this bass. So all these sounds are the type of thing I can actually, I can remix. And even
Lies told to you through YouTubes and Hulus, shows with no hues that look like you do. Black Twitter was that when Jack is paid, do you? For everyone, Gucci support to Fubles.
And so the students will be able to take that, for example, and they'll be able to remix that. Maybe they want to start bending the genres. Genres are just like types of music, like dubstep and EDM and house and gospel and reggae and, pop and rap and everything else. So like that's all in here. They can sort of filter by these different types of music, and then instruments. They can say, okay, I want to just use bass and drums. So they can just hit that, and now I can see all my drums, and I can see the drums within hip hop, for example. And now I've got just the drums that show up in hip hop. So I can just say, okay, I want this hip hop drum. Starts to sound like stuff you've heard on the radio, right? Old school. All right. And then you'll see everything that we write, all our code, it's right there. And you'll see there's this sample code that we just looked at. And on the right-hand side, there's this built-in curriculum in EarSketch, and you can click on that button. And what we tell students is we say, if you're curious, like go ahead and search for your answer. think of this as like your Google, but specific for EarSketch. So a student might say, you know what, actually, I want to know about effects. We're in the first hour. No one's teaching me that. So I'm kind of jumping ahead. Then you can actually just search on that. I can say, well, I want to add effects. Let me do this with, I want to do like a delay effect, for example. And it jumps right into the curriculum and shows you how to, do a delay. We don't teach them that until we get to like kind of workshop 3, but they can go ahead and jump ahead. We often say that students have a low floor, right? So we want to make sure that they can, they have the ability to get started quickly. We want them to have a high ceiling. In other words, they can go as high as they want, as far as they want in the curriculum. We also say we want to give them wide walls. Let them experiment. Let them get into doing their own thing. All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. This time I'm going to show you how to log in. All right, let's see right here. Here we go. So to log in, you can just hit skip the tour in EarSketch. And all I want you to do is create an account. This will be important so that you can save your work later. So go to the top right-hand side of the screen. And I'll see if I can zoom in, see if that's easier to see. Okay. All right, there we go. Click on Create Reset Account and register a new account. So go top right-hand side of the screen, create reset account, register a new account. Unless you already have an EarSketch account, if you're a coach that's done this before, then just go ahead and log in. And if you forgot your password, click on Forget Your Password, create reset account, register a new account. Go in here and then you just put in your username. For students, we say use a stage name. So my stage name is breakbeatcode. We'll see students, they'll like use stage names like Blackdrop and Little Sizzle and Marcus, where they change the letters of their name from U to O. So they'll play around with that. We actually think that's really important to get students to give themselves a stage name. Why? A couple of reasons. One, it's good for privacy, like kind of protecting their personal information. But it's also cool for identity, because straight away we found that when students gave themselves a stage name, they also already started to think of themselves as artists. We actually found that they started to express themselves pretty quickly when they got that stage name. They also felt more comfortable sharing, because then when they're sharing, it's like their stage name, it's not like their name. So when they're sharing their work, it kind of puts a safe space for them to be able to perform in that way. So username, password, confirm password, create an account. Okay. So, and if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in chat. Cool. All right. So now I'm going to jump over. I'm going to stop sharing this. Now I'm going to share the main screen where I've logged in. Okay. And now I want you all to please follow along. What I do, I want you to do. And some of you will get this straight away and it'll just work, and you'll get lucky because like when I did this first time, I broke everything. But maybe you catch this faster than I did when I first started. Some of you will run into some issues. I'm going to show you straight off some of the issues you're going to run into. And actually, I should have showed you how to create a script. So you get into this main page, go ahead and click here to create a new script. Okay. Click here to create a new script. Like that. And, I gave my script a name. I called it Workshop 1. And I just hit create. What we also tell students is, if you want to start straight away, I'm going to give it a name. The business part 1. That could be the name of my track. So you can get creative. So I've already created a track though. I've already created a script rather. You can see it's right here. You'll notice it has like what we call boilerplate. It just has some code that's already there. It'll show you the first thing students will they'll mess up. They'll like delete a portion of that, for example. We tell them like if they do that, it's actually just easier to go ahead and click on a button, create a new script. But this boilerplate stuff, in other words, this code that just automatically shows up, we don't want to touch that, right? We just want to go down here and create a new line right there. All right. So now we're at less than 20 minutes in. We started at 5 past the hour. We started at 11:35 Eastern. We're not even 20 minutes in, and you can see already, even though I did some extra explaining, right? Because I'm also explaining how to teach. We're less than 20 minutes in, and students are already going to start to code, and it's actually really easy. Why? Because it auto completes. All I did was press the letter F and pause. And what happens? You actually see it automatically says, okay, maybe you're trying to say use fit media. Okay, so remember I showed you that slide? That's like calling a pizza. We're going to call this function called fit media. Just hit enter, right? I'll show you again. Delete that. I could just press F, I, for example, T pretty quickly, or I could just press F. And already fit media is going to autocomplete. I just click on that with my mouse. You'll see, remember, just the same way, these are the inputs, sound, track, start, end. What's the sound? I go over here. I pick any of these sounds I like. If you've logged in, you'll actually see that you can save a sound. Let's say I look at this and I say, okay, cool. Ooh, I might actually use that. And I'm just going to hit favorite. All right. And then I'm going to go show only favorite. That thing's right there. Okay. So show only favorite. Actually, that's weird. It's actually not showing all my favorites. Maybe that feature's broken. Ooh, that's weird. What did I do wrong? Okay, let me just clear my. Normally, if you say show only favorites and Shiva, feel free to call it out if you're seeing something different. Yeah, that's kind of weird. All right, something's amiss. I'm not sure why, but it's not showing just my favorites. It should only show, oh, that's the recommendations. That's why. Cool. Up here at the top, it's just recommending sounds, not necessarily favorites. This is just right at the top. Glad I spotted that. Everything down here, though, these are the things I previously favorited. I just put the little star. Okay, so just to be clear, up here, it's recommending some random stuff that it thinks will work for me, but I would just want to show only favorites. So look back here. We saw, let's see, I had that one. It was the hip hop bass. I went here. Maybe I'm going to go hip hop at filter. And now I'm going to show only favorites. You know, I could even search for, okay, show me everything in hip hop. I put a star next to it. And I said bass. And I actually found that thing I like. And look what I did. So I'm going to just take sound. That's where it says sound. I'm just going to delete that. I want you all to follow along. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and click this blue button, the paste to editor. And now you'll see this sound's right there. I can even sample it again. And I'm going to show that one more time. So we start off, it just said sound. I just deleted sound. Made sure I kept the comma. You don't even have to delete it. You can just highlight the word. And then I'm just going to click this blue button right here that says paste to editor. And boom, it's in there. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit for those of you like me that need glasses. One thing I found with students in classrooms, unfortunately, some students don't have corrective lenses. So something they might need glasses and don't have them. So just make sure if you're presenting to a large audience, you might actually need to zoom. And then for some of the kids in the audience, their eyes are going to be way sharper than mine. So they don't need me to do this, but let's assume that some of your students might need to squint otherwise. All right, so I got this track. We're just going to replace this. Just highlight that word track. Just type in 1. So that means we're going to start it on the first track, that first row. I want to start it on the 1, on measure 1. That means I'm starting it on the beginning. So here you might hear people when they talk about dance or music, they'll say start on the 1. And then we're going to put this to, let's say 10. Okay, just type in 10 and enter. Hit the run button. And magically, we now have our first track. We hit the play. So what's happening? We're on track 1. starting at measure 1. We go to 10. That sound, normally, it only plays for what we call 2 measures or 2 bars. Yeah, that's how it's recorded, right? It's just those 2 measures. Measures and bars, they're the same thing. Why are they called bars? Well, like right here, you can see there are actually these horizontal lines. And if it was like a musical score, bars are actually represented by a big bar, big line, big vertical line. And so measures and bars, same thing. What's a measure? A measure is simply 4 beats in this case. It's something we call 4/4 or 4 on the floor. It is 4 beats per measure. It's basically just most pop music will be 4 beats per measure. If we're dancing, right? If you're a dance instructor, you're going to count it off. You're going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. Those numbers I emphasize 1, 3, 4, 2. Those are the measures. What are they made of? They're made of beats. How many beats? 4 beats. So it's just like if a beat is an inch, sort of like measures a foot, right? Except the difference here, you got 4 beats per measure, the same way you have 12 inches per foot, okay? And it's just a way to measure time in music, okay? And so again, hit play. So for those of you, what I want you to do, give me a thumbs up in the chat. Say got it, or you want to say. So, and those of you who have questions, need me to slow down, speed up. Got it. Okay. It'd be really helpful if someone says you don't have it, because then we can have a little loss. Struggling to track
hey.
one.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh,
Hey.
all right. I was just gonna ask. It's not more so you were going too fast. I went onto the website myself. I made the account and everything. I was gonna ask. So, in terms of understanding the script for music, is it more so kind of a straight shot when you start with it in terms of the coding, or is it more so we start with like a straight shot and we tell the students that they can like modify it a bit, like doing their own expression when it comes to music?
Oh, right. Let me make sure I
Yeah.
understand your question. So we say a straight shot for their own expression, as in like writing their own function, or do you mean? Yeah. Is that what you're thinking? Like where they actually write like a brand new thing instead of using fit media, they got like play my thing is their function. They actually design the function. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely not our one. What you're describing, you're describing a super high ceiling, right? Once you're talking to a student, they're like, well, I want to design my own thing instead of using fit media. I want this thing to do something other than just play a sound in a loop, right? I wanted to do that, but I wanted to automatically have like higher pitch, whatever it is. So you're describing like what we call a user-defined function. In other words, students are writing that function themselves. They're like writing the recipe. Literally, we call it a recipe, a design recipe. That is episode 5 of this series. So, but great question. Great example, high series. If you want to jump ahead though, feel free. You can go to breakbeatcode.org. That is the full 10-hour behemoth. We're going to give you the compressed version. You can go breakbeatcode.org and you can super jump ahead. You can also go over to the curriculum panel. You can say create functions, maybe create, let's see, functions. See, that works. Yeah, custom functions, create functions. You could actually just search on this. You could actually learn how to make your own function. I think they may even call it user defined. They may have put it that. Like you can do some searching in here. I personally recommend use our curriculum. Go to breakbeatcode.org, not .com, .org, and that is our self-paced learning for people who want to jump ahead. Great question. Who else? Okay. Okay. Just type in the, yeah, and feel free to reach out to us later. We're happy to send you this in PowerPoint format. Yeah. Okay, and then feel free to ask us questions. There's a group chat that we have, so you can just respond to the breakbeatcode coaches all, and when I send this to you, feel free to send your questions to everyone. You can ask us personally. Feel free. Okay, so now we've got first line. Okay, and so I just showed you how to do that. I'm gonna start from I'm actually gonna to scrap this thing, and I'm going to start from the top again. For those of you who kind of found this, I was going a little bit fast or got a little bit lost. It's right here. I'm just going to do this thing again. I'm going to say I'm going to call this thing version 2, workshop 1. Okay, June 23, 2023. Auspicious day. I just create a new script again. Just ignore this part for now. Go here. I just want you to type in F, and it says fit media. I just want you to hit enter. What I did before, I said okay. Got this content manager where it says sounds right there. I'm going to go here. I like this sound. Actually, you know what? Instead of that, actually, no, I'm going to stick with that one. I hit that blue button. I typed in 1. I typed in 1 for start. I typed in 10 for end. I hit run. And again, it did the same thing. For those of you, you might see right here, this is a zoom out function or feature, allows me to zoom out. What if I want to make this go for 5 measures? Right? So I want it to end on 5. Hit run. Oh, cool. Now it's 5 measures. So this last thing, this determines where it's this says what rows is going to play on. So if I did this, I could say, oops, excuse me. Say I want this on track 2, and you'll see instead it's on row number 2. I decided I want it on 5 instead. So what I'm going to start to show you how to do. All right, I'm going to show you how to start changing these numbers. What happens when you change these numbers? Well, I just showed you a couple quick examples, but let me show you how to do that. I want my second track. So I got the synth on track 1. I'm just going to hit enter. Type in F. Okay, and I'm going to hit autocomplete. So I'm just going to hit the enter button again. All right, and so let's go ahead and replace some sounds here. Let's see. It says Beagle. That is not bad. I'm going to go ahead. I kind of like that. I'm going to go, before I do that, let's try this one. Tough choice, both of those are pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to hit that blue button, paste editor. So I've highlighted the word sound. I'm pasting this button, hitting this button to paste to editor. It's automatically putting in that sound. That's the name of the sound. I want this to be on the second row, the second track. It's like a train track. So I'm going to say track. I'm going to say, okay, well, I want track to be 2. So I'm just going to place that thing called track, and I'll make that 2. I want it to start. I want to start on 3. I want it to start right there. Okay. And where do I want it to end? You know what? I'm going to end this on 10 as well. Okay, so now what's going to happen when I hit run? Check it out. So now I've got 2 sounds. My first sound right here, what it did when I hit run, it read this code. It says, okay. It just says, from EarSketch import star. Just so you know, that just means I want you to, it's saying it loads up all the instructions. If you all ever saw The Matrix, right? Remember where they kind of loaded up and he learned Kung Fu, right? They said, okay, give me Kung Fu. They put in the instructions for Kung Fu, and next thing you know, Neo knows Kung Fu. Same thing here, to load up all these things from EarSketch, load up all the built-in functions, all that code. That's what happens on line 2. You don't need to know that. Just know that that happens automatically. We're going to show you what to do here, but this set tempo thing is actually just saying how many beats per minute. We're going to show you how to play with that in a second. And here are the instructions I wrote. And I just said, line 6, first instruction, use fit media, the built-in function, to place that sound, the synth, on track 1, starting at 1, ending at 10. All right. It reads top to bottom. So it says, okay, I'm going to do that. And that's exactly, follow the instructions. This computer, it is not smart. It is just following my instructions. It did not like come up with like some sort of, there's no like AI here in the background. It is just saying, you told me what to do, I'm doing it. And it knows a handful of things to do. It knows how to play some music. So it goes fit media, and it says the next line, so it reads down and says, okay, now you want me to play this sound, but not on the same track. You're saying track 2. So right here, the second track, second row. I don't want you to start on 1 at the very beginning. I want you to start on 3. That's why this goes to 3. And I want you to both end at 10, measure 10. And then we hit run. That's what happened. So you have 2 rows instead of 1. I hit play. There's my synth. And this is like, as soon as the students have written 1 line of code, as soon as they hit the play button, I always ask them, how many songs do you have to make before you're officially an artist? Some student will say, well, 1, right? It's not like you got to get like 20 songs or 100 songs for your artist. Like your first song, you're an artist automatically. How far you want to go with that, that's up to you. How many lines of code do you have to write before you're an engineer? Again, write 1 line of code. All of a sudden, you write 1 program, you hit the run button, and it works. You're officially an engineer. How far you want to go with that, it's up to you. So the students at this point, they're already artist engineers. Not only that, they put down 2 tracks, right? And now they're like, they start to get creative. They're like, I don't know about that. It kind of feels like it's going a little bit too fast. So just like we had this thing called fit media, this built-in function that like places sound on a specific track, starting at a specific measure and ending in a specific measure, got this thing called set tempo. It's like fit media, it's like a built-in function. It's got 1 input. That input is the beats per minute. So 120 represents the beats per minute. 120 beats per minute is roughly the speed of a heartbeat. All right, it's counting like how many beats are in a minute. So this is like the 1 beat per second. It's 120 beats, so it's actually 2 beats per second. Okay, I'm going to slow this down to something more like 100, which you might hear some hip hop at around 100 beats per minute. Hit run. You notice nothing changed up here, but if you look really closely, you will notice up here that it ends at like just below 422 seconds when I hit run. When I speed it up, it actually plays in 18 seconds. Why? Because it's the same number of beats. It's just playing it faster, so it gets done quicker. So I'm just going to go 100 beats per minute, hit run, hit the top. You'll notice it's a bit slower. Now, we always tell students this is where we start to have some fun. They can just start playing with set tempo. They might go like, all right, well, let me see how slow this thing can go. I'm gonna go all the way down to 30 beats per minute. Whoa, no, wait, hang on, what happened? So down here, we got our first error. We tell students errors are not failure. They're not failure, they are feedback. It's teaching you how to code. We often, one of the reasons we call it breakbeat code for a couple of reasons. One, breakbeat, kind of like the source of hip hop and drum and bass and a lot of the music we hear. It was like super old school, pre hip hop was breakbeat, and code, obviously, because we're using code to remix beats. But also break code. We often intentionally break the code. We intentionally create errors, just like I did here. Why? It teaches us how to fix them. If I break it intentionally, then I can see like, okay, that's what that looks like when I break it this way. Next time, I know what I'm looking for. So let's get this funky error though. Type error, and it looks like a totally different language. It doesn't look like English. Error message, type error. This is an error with expected data type. Start tempo exceeds the allowed value. It's like, what is that? What are you on? Well, it says like start tempo, that's the function, exceeds you know, the allowed range. So it's gone out of the range. So what it's telling me is that if you're going to use set start tempo, what you figure out is like, it's got to be between 45 and 220. You go less than 45, you go try to go too slow. It's like, no, I can't play it that slow. You go above 220, it's going to give you an error. It doesn't tell me exactly how to fix it. It gives me a clue, but I could figure this out after breaking it a few times. Like, oh, wait, hang on. It's telling me I got to make it faster than 45. Okay, well, make it 46. Does that work? Yeah, it's going to sound weird. It's going to sound like I'm playing in mud or something. It's like, right? Like I'm about to fall asleep. That's definitely not going to work. Let me just speed this up. I'll just double it. What is 92 going to sound like? Hit run again. Go to the top. Start to sound more like it. Brings up 5. And this is where we call the low floor. Getting going faster, get them coding faster. Try to make it as easy as possible for them to get to do it. Use the autocomplete to make it easier for them to write the code. This is like trying to create that low floor, high ceiling. We had one person ask, like, "Hey, I want to build my own functions." Okay, you are going off like a rocket. So jump ahead if you want. We're gonna make sure we teach everyone at the same time. And then wide walls, like tell students, hey, you want to mess around with set tempo, go for it. Play around with that. But we're gonna move along. We're gonna put on our third track, and we're just gonna say, gonna go fit. Montanez, thanks for I love the fact you're answering messages here. Cool, awesome. So if any of you others, any of the people on the call, if you feel like you got an answer to a question, you got something to share, jump in the chat. Thank you. That's great. All right, so I just typed in F. Okay, I can autocomplete. But I want to start practicing writing code, which is, by the way, totally unnecessary in this case, because I can just hit the enter button. Maybe I don't want to do that. I just want to practice typing it myself. Okay, fit media. I can just type this out myself if I wanted to, because it autocompletes. I mean, why would I? But no, why not? But then let's just not do that. I could type this out. Like I could go in here and say, all right, I want, I want a different sound here. Maybe I go artist, and maybe I go in here. Let's see, what would I want? Let's see. What's this like? I don't know if this. I don't know if that's going to work musically. This could be a hot mess, but go in here and I could just go like that. Type in, it's now going to be on track 3. I'm going to start this on 5. Measure 5, let's say, and 10. That's one way to do it. I could actually type the thing all the way out. There's a good chance you're going to make more errors that way. All right, we'll show you how to make some errors in a second. But that worked. Okay, that's what we heard before. All right, let's work all this instruction. Okay, musically, for me, that does not work. Musically for me, and actually, I'm just going to delete all that. Actually, let's start from scratch. Let's see, what we got in here? Let's see, I've got this one.
Let out of here, you're welcome to go.
It's family and passion. If the doors ain't cracking.
That could sound pretty interesting. I'm going to go back in here, type in F, fit medium, just going to hit enter, autocomplete. Got my sound in here. I'm just going to kick, so you can see on this right-hand side, I found this kind of whispery voice. Again, that sounds like this.
It's family and passion. If the doors ain't cracking.
Okay, I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put that on. Okay, we're going to put on track 3. So I'm going to replace this up here. I didn't like how that sounded. I'm going to put it on track 3. I'm going to start it at, I want to start it right here at 5. So it's going to be the same. I'm going to end it at 10 again. So they're all going to end over here and hit run. And as I hit run, I'm going to just highlight down here what instruction it's reading effectively. I mean, effectively, it read all the instructions. That's why you see everything here. I'll highlight the row of the instruction it followed to create that thing. So the first row, when I hit play, it'll be that first line of code. Hit run. That's what's happening there. Then read the next line of code. Put it there. Read the third line. Okay. What if I want everything to not end at 10? I want it to end on, let's say, 13. What if I want everything to end on 13? How can I do it? There's kind of 2 ways to do it. It's really easy. Oh, someone asked if this is open source. EarSketch is not open source. EarSketch, as far as I know, at least, maybe you found something there. It's actually it is a EarSketch itself is written and supported by Georgia Tech School of Music Technology. Starting to sound good. Nice, thanks. The how do I change? I want to change this. I want all the tracks. I want all of them to end at 13. What do I need to do? Feel free to answer in the chat. I want everything to end on the 13th measure. Right now I can only see it ending at 10. What do I do so that everything ends at 13? Give you a second to think about that. I want everything. Remember, we got, when I have fit media, this is the sound, this is the track or the row, or like the train track, the track it plays on. This is where it starts and this is where it ends. I want all 3 of these things to end at 13. Take a guess. I want everything to end at 13. What do I need to change? Where do I show me how to do it? Change 10 to 13 in 8. Okay, so you're telling me, okay, change this number to 13 and hit run. Okay, well, that changed that one to 13. Okay, cool. What do I do next? Yeah, end variable. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. Here's the slow way. I just change all these things to 13, and now all of them end at 13. It's okay to do it this way. It works. It's functional. It is working code. Now, but when I tell students, okay, at this point you only have 3 lines of code, not too bad. Imagine that you had 30,000 lines of code. And imagine in those 30,000 lines of code, you need to update, you had this number 10 spread out all over the place, maybe in 200, 300 different places. You had lines of code, all of them said 10, but you want to change all those lines of code to 13. What do you have to do? You have to stare at a computer screen for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. You have to go in there, you have to scroll down. Oh, gosh, that's 10. Okay, let me change that to 13. And like, oh, wait, is that the same one? And so you waste a lot of time. You make a bunch of mistakes. You make it really harder for you to do what we call maintain a code. In other words, update it, change it over time, improve it, because you didn't use something called a variable. What's a variable? A variable is something, it's like a name tag. It's a short name. The variable I'm going to create is called end. Barbara, thank you for the suggestion. This end variable, I'm going to call that 13 this time. Okay, end equals 13. So to create a variable in Python, I just want to create that up here and equals 13. And instead of having this is how I should have written the code from the start. It's like, well, if I want to change this variable, that value, instead of having to, I'm just going to call it end. I want to just like say like, all right, it's end, and end. That's cool. Now, all right. Well, that's weird. Like I just replace a number with a word, but that doesn't make sense. Well, it does. It does make sense to the EarSketch at least, because it's just reading top to bottom. It's like, okay, you're telling me do this. Got it. I've just imported all this stuff that lets me play music. You know, I got my new skill. I can do karate like Neo. Can play music. You told me how. So like, because I know how to play music, I know I have these built-in functions like set tempo. Okay, I know that does a thing, and it plays this. You know, it plays this track at 105 beats per minute. Wait, hang on. End. What's end? So it's like, think this is like the computer working it out. It's like, oh, you're telling me end is this word, it's variable. It equals 13. What does that mean? It means every time it sees the word end, it just points to the number 13, replaces it. So when I hit run, you're going to see what happens is nothing changes. Why? Because over here, it did the same thing. And when it saw the word end, it said, okay, you mean 13. And, okay, you're saying 13. And you're saying 13. What if I want to change it to 8? I can update it once. Right there, magic. Why? Because now, whenever it sees end, it now knows it equals 8. So that's the power of a variable. I change it once, and everywhere the word end is used, I have this magical thing called a variable, and it just points to that number. Okay? All right, so we only got 5 minutes left. I'm going to break some more code. Let me show you how to do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to hit run. What happens? Name error. It's like there's an error with a variable or function name that is not defined. End is not defined on line 7. What does that mean? End is not defined on line 7. But I got end there, and I got end there, I got end there. Ah, wait. I was supposed to tell it what end equals. It has no idea what I mean by end because I haven't given it a value. Now I say end equals 20. Actually, you know what? I didn't even have to use the word end. I could have just said like something like X. And this could use the letter X because I just made up this name. It doesn't have to be called end, right? I just made up this thing called X, and that equals 20. So just start replacing that with the number 20. I could call this thing, you know, blue. The name doesn't matter. It does have some rules. It needs to start with a letter. It can't start with a number. And you have to be consistent. So if you're going to say I want it to end on blue, that's my nickname for where it ends. So I'm just making this up. I just have to be consistent, right? Blue is not a very good variable name. Why? It doesn't mean anything. I wanted this to be end, like, or I could even say maybe I want it to be end measure to make it even more specific. So it's got to start with a letter. It also can't have any spaces, so I can't do like that. It's going to throw an error. Okay, it's got to be start with a letter, no spaces. Let's say I want to use end measure. That's my variable name. That's fine. Okay, so you can see if I just consistently use this new thing called end measure, it's going to just update it once, update it everywhere. Okay, so we're at time. What have we learned? We learned a lot. We learned how to use EarSketch, how to create an account. We learned the concepts of track, musical track, like these train tracks, different places to place your sound. We learned about beats. Beats are the fundamental beat music, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And we learned measures. Measures are simply 4 beats, right? We also learned about these things called built-in functions. So like functions, reusable code, receives an input and takes an action. We use our first function called fit media, where it takes a sound, places it on a certain track number at a certain start measure and end measure. We learned how to use sounds and play them on 3 different tracks in this case. We learned about variables so that we now have this thing called end measure, right? I could say end, but this case I try to use it as end measure. And magically, I just update that once, and everywhere that it sees end measure, it automatically uses that number. So we learned a lot in a very short period of time. That was the hour breakbeat code. Thank you, everyone. I don't expect everyone got this in the sense that I'm sure you had some challenges or you ran into some errors that I didn't cover. Totally fine. You could ask questions. Ideally, ask them to the whole group so everyone benefits. If you don't want to, you can just contact us in a response to any of the emails we send out. Totally up to you. Ideally, just respond to the whole group so everyone can learn. And yeah, we'll schedule the follow-up session for workshop 2. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah, it's really good. I just was gonna ask. So, what were the 3 things you mentioned in terms of lines? I know you mentioned sound, but I forgot the name for the other 2.
Oh yeah. So you mean like when I use Fit Media?
Yes.
Yeah. So see, it actually shows you, right? When you do the autocomplete, it says sound, track, start, end.
Start. Sound, track, start, and end.
Yeah.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah. So what sound? Where is it playing? When does it start? When does it stop?
Okay. And that's the basis for any beat.
That's the basis for playing any sound using this thing called Fit Media. We haven't taught you how to use other functions in your sketch, but there's more to learn. Great question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'll stay on for a couple more minutes, but we're at time. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. This is really cool. Hope you all enjoyed this. We will we'll send this out as workshop 1, and then we'll send you workshop 2 later. We'll send you the link to workshop 1, and yeah, and hopefully you enjoy this. We have the recording. We'll share that out. And we'll be here for questions. Hopefully you had fun. And exporting to MP3. Yeah, I'll show you that real quickly. Someone asked, could I export this? So if I want to, and when we do the DJ party, right? They ask about exporting it. It's actually really easy. All you need to do is right click, download MP3. Oops. Oh, I think I made a mistake. Oh, that's right. I have an error. Delete that. Okay, I'm going to download MP3. All right, so it's just taken that. It's actually run my code. And then I'll say, okay, go ahead and do this. Save it to MP3. And now what I can do is I can go in there and actually can play MP3. All right, I just downloaded the first music track. You want to? Okay. Now you could share that. Beware, this is under what we call the Creative Commons license. You cannot monetize that. One of those sounds actually came from Jay-Z. I don't want to mess with Jay-Z's lawyers personally, nor do you, I'm sure. So can't monetize these things. You can't sell them on and put it on YouTube and get advertising revenue. You can just share them on things like SoundCloud, Mixcloud, places where you just share music for free without actually charging.
Can you import your own sounds?
Great question. You can add sound here, right here. Great question. Add sound. You can either upload a sound. You got to give it a name. You could hit record. I'm going to hit record. I go check, 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 check. call it check 5. All right. I'm going to hit upload. Where does that show up? It actually shows up on my name, actually. It shows up as, clear this. Okay. And you'll see breakbeatcode, which is actually my stage name. If I like highlight that, you'll see everything I've uploaded, including what I just played, which was check 5. That's now a sound.
Check, 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 check.
Not something I would use in a music track, though.
It's not bad.
Cheers. You also got these free sounds. Like, let's say the one I always use is like car keys. Search on that. Okay. And I got sounds of car keys. No keys. Maybe I actually want to use one of those. I'm going to go, okay, cool. I'm going to save that one. I can upload that. It doesn't automatically come with all these. You have to go into this like free sound section. You have also this thing called tune that we'll go into, but that's like a sequencer. Great question. Okay. So now we're just 5 past the hour, so we've officially done our hour. Thank you, everyone. This is, again, I'll share the recording. We'll share the slides from today. Thanks so much for joining us, for your questions. Thanks for being here to
Cheers.
be curious and get engaged. Thanks so much. Really cool. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.